Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name's Paul and this is PB Trader. In this video I'm going to talk about the perfect 15-minute ORB setup. The ORB is the Opening Range Breakout and it's a trade I took today. It was a perfect trade. I took a 3R and a 5R target from it, and so I'm going to go through that trade with you right now. In my opening range trades, I always look for the first 15 minutes of the market to open. And what I mean by this is I'm waiting for the first 3 5-minute candles to form. So what I do is I wait, open up my chart, I'll wait for the first 15 minutes. So we've got 3 candles, which you can see here, and that gives me the range I'm watching for today. So I mark the high of the range, which is that yellow line at the top. I mark the low of the range, which happens to be the second candle in that range, and I also mark the middle of the range. In fact, I have an indicator which I built which does that automatically for me, called Key Level Pros. The Key Level Pro indicator is available on my web store. There's a description, the link's in the description below, and it's a pretty decent indicator. It does it all automatically, so I don't have to think about it. And as you can see, that's the range we've got there. Nothing happened in the first 11 bars until about 10:20, and then we had the first candle that broke that opening range low. So there is a few confirmations I wait for as well. We've got the pre-market low, and that's another area I like to look for, break and retest. You can see later on it did actually come back and retest the opening range. I'll get into that later. One of the main things I look for is volume. And as you can see, as we were going sideways, we were lacking the volume. So there's no conviction from both the sellers or the buyers. Then we took our first red candle out of that little flag pattern. That's a great little flag pattern there. And then we had our first red candle with increased volume. That's what we want to see. Then we had a green candle. It's a bit of an indecision candle. Bottom tail, opening tail. Didn't break the opening range low at all. And that was on slightly more volume, mediocre volume, but nothing too exciting. And then we add the breaking candle. So it was barely a breaking candle. So the rules I look for is it has to be below the midpoint. So that was a tick. It has to break the opening range low. That was pretty much a close call. It was still a tick though. Well, I want to see increased volume on the breaking candle. We had kind of the same amount of volume, but more volume than the previous red candle. So that's kind of a tick. So that's the only one I wasn't too sure about. I also like to see a solid red candle to show that we have conviction from the sellers. And even though we had a small bottom tail, that's pretty much a solid red candle. If you compare it to the previous candle where we had the bottom tail there, then it's definitely a more solid red candle. So basically that's 3 confirmations I'm looking for. I also use order flow and cumulative delta divergence, and what I'm looking for in that, which I can open up my screen now with my NinjaTrader platform, close that. I'm looking for a lack of basically a lack of commitment from the buyers. So we've got I use footprint charts, and what time were we looking at? It was around 10:25, this area here. So this is exactly what I'm looking for. So that is the high. So this is the high at the top of here. That's this candle been putting in there. So one thing I like to see is notice here at the top of that candle, 150. We had only 27 buying orders up there, and then we had 22. So we had a reducing number of interested buyers at the highs of these 2 candles. So that's a good confirmation I look for. I'm also looking at cumulative delta as well. So when I'm looking for the opening range short, so around 10:20, I want to see cumulative delta also going in the same direction as the trade I'm intending to take. So I'm looking for a short. I want to see aggressive sellers coming in. So I want to see lower lows, lower highs, as you can see there. So that's another confirmation. Obviously we've got volume. We've got the pre-market is another confirmation. We are in a trending market. You can see, well, we weren't in a trend, we were in a sideways market. And what I wanted to see was us to break all of this area here, which we did. 67, 60 is the area I was watching. So that low there, that's the area I was waiting for it to break. The market came down, pulled into that area. So we've lost a major level as well, which is marked up on my hourly chart. And then that's another confirmation. And then finally, what I'm looking for is lack of participation from the buyers. So as I said earlier, we had 27 buy orders up there, 22 there. We had a negative delta, we had a positive delta. You know, don't like seeing the point of control at the bottom of a bar. That shows us a bit of support. But as soon as we break that bar, that point of control, and then we start putting in these stacked negative deltas, I know that the sellers are now in control. So there's a few confirmations, and this is where you see the flip as well. So looking at the volume, cumulative delta, we had green, 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 green volume. Notice how we only had 85 aggressive buy orders in that cumulative delta, and then suddenly we flipped into negative territory. So this is another confirmation I look for. So there's lots of confirmations. So just to recap quickly, I'm looking at volume. That's the main one. Main one is volume, increase in volume, and you can see that on the next candle as well. So let's go into the next rule I'm looking for. We've got volume, we're looking at the 15-minute range. Cumulative delta I've just spoken about. So what I'm looking for in cumulative delta, I want to see the delta going in the same direction as the desired trade. So if I'm going short, I want to see a lot of aggressive sellers come in. If I'm going long, I want to see a lot of aggressive buyers come in, and that just sets up. If I start seeing divergences, for example, we have aggressive selling but the buyers are sideways, then I might think twice about it. That's not really a confirmation. The next thing I'm looking for, lack of buyers or sellers, we just spoke about. And then finally, my entry and stops and targets, which I'm going to go into right now. I'm keeping this video as brief as possible because it's very, we don't want to close out. It's very, very simple, this strategy, and it's literally been a game changer for me. So my entry, as soon as we have this confirmed break of the opening range low, you know, same we have the break of the top, then I'm looking to take my entry. So my stop goes immediately above that candle, a couple of ticks above it. So it happens to be the midpoint, that green line. My entry is one tick below the low of that candle. So I had a bit of time to think about it. I trade MES. I also trade ES on one of my other platforms. And so on this chart, I had MES. I'm basically risking $200 per trade, and I'm aiming to get 3R and 5R. So the $200 on this particular trade would have been 4 contracts of MES. 4 contracts of MES. And if you watch my videos before, watch my live streams every day, then you know that I trade Apex and I copy trade across onto multiple accounts. So even though I'm risking $200 on this trade, I'm actually risking effectively trading. There's 21 accounts I've got there. There's 4 paid accounts, and the other eval is what I'm building up to convert into paid accounts. So I'm basically effectively risking 20 times 200 is $4,000 per trade, but it's spread over all of those accounts. So basically a $4,000 risk, and I'm looking to make 3R, which is $12,000, and 5R, which is around about $16,000 in total. That's what I'm looking for on a good day. And obviously we don't always get those days, and I've sized up recently, and the idea of sizing up was so that I can start taking profits early, and that's what I did today. So my entry was there, as you can see, my stop was there. We broke down, I took 4 contracts of MES there with a risk of $200, so I was risking $200 up here. And then my first target was 3R, and that would have been, let me just work it out. Got my fibs tool, I've got oh, 1 second, why is it not working? There. So I normally put this fibs tool in. So my entry was there, my stop was there. My first target, well, I'm aiming for 3R. I missed it there by 1 tick. So close, but I got it there. I held on to this. But when we pulled back, I took some off at 2R. So my first out was 1 contract there, leaving me with 3 contracts left. I took 2 off here, leave me with 1 contract. And when we hit the 5R, which was just here, no, not that one, I wish it was, just there, that left me with 0 contracts. And that was that's basically a 2R, 3R, and 5R target. And it was easy play. There was a couple places you could have easily added to the trade. For example, as we broke one of my other strategies, if I miss this, then I'll wait for the pullback to the opening range, and I probably should have added so I could reduce my target a bit. But look at this, this is a perfect break and retest of the opening range low. You could have put you have a defined stop, your risk would have been there, and let's see what the risk to reward would have been for this one had I added in. So my entry would have been there, would have easily hit 3R, it would have gone down to 9R on the day. So that would have been an easy trade on a break and retest. But because I was already in the trade and I was holding, I should have probably added. I'm a bit disappointed in myself that I didn't add, but that'll be in my journal. And that is basically it. It's a really easy trade, one you can do every day. You only need to wait for the first 15 minutes of the market to open. You have to be strict with your rules. You have to be strict with when you take it as well. You've got to make sure you take it on a decent candle with increase in volume. That shows your commitment from the sellers. You obviously want to take it through these pre-market low levels, which is that area there, that blue line. We did have yesterday's low. That's my only concern today. Yesterday's low was directly below, but I took it, and as soon as I saw that candle break down on increase in volume, it just worked. And as you can see, when it pulled back to the ORB, that was a great add as well, but I didn't take that. You can also see in the background this blue line. I basically put the trend line in, which comes from up there originally. And so while it was below this trend line, I was happy to keep hold of it in. So happy to keep the trade running. So it literally rejected the trend line and it rejected it back down here. Let's extend it again, because that's when I walked away. Trend line's about there. Look at that. So we can see now we've broken the trend line at this low here. So we basically just bounced off of that trend line all day. And how does that make it a nice easy trade? And if you're trailing, obviously I am around midday. That's my time when I stop trading. So I put my target in place, which was a 5R, and then I moved my stop from my -1R loss. I think I put it to the top of that pivot there. So I was either going to make 5R today, or it's going to trail me out at 1.5R. That's basically my entire trading day, and that was an easy trade. And then let's have a look, see where we are now. So we are pulling back a little bit. We've broken that, we've barely broken that trend line. So you could say we're still holding this trend line. We haven't really closed above it with any conviction, no increased buying. So you could say we're still going to put in another downtrend, but we won't know that until the end of today. And that's it. Appreciate you watching. Any questions, leave me a comment. If you trade ORB, let me know how you find your entries. Do you look, what other confirmations do you look for? Probably I overcomplicate it a bit with all these extra confirmations, but I like to have at least 2 or 3 confirmations when I take this trade. And look how easy it was today. Nice, easy 3-hour day. And I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for watching. I will be back soon with a volume profile tutorial. Somebody asked me about volume profile, and I thought it'd be great just to go through what I'm looking for volume profile. And I use that all the time for taking profit or for looking for stops. Okay. Thanks for watching.